all the members of ICD for this forum that always comes regularly all through the year. It's my second time of coming close to you, sir, and I'm privileged also to be lectured by you at this time. My paper presentation is not really, how will I say it? It's a kind of dialectic, a kind of dialogue, in which we are looking at how do we move Africa forward. There's been a lot of suggestions here. I've been listening, and there have even been issues about identity, etc., poverty, and pollution, and others. Now, today my topic is on framing an African dialectics on health and environment, engaging children and youth in sustainability education. It's about policies for government, why it should be, and why youth should be engaged in issues on environment. The dialectic method is an art of investigating or discussing the truth of opinion. It's from a Greek word. It's a discussion between two or more people who have different points of views about a subject, and it's not really a debate or winners or losers. It's neither is it a rhetoric or seeking to persuade in a cohesive manner. The central keys are resolution to disagreement, enhancing cooperation and accountability, and mapping out a mutually beneficial path for the future. We do not have to love each other in order to make things work for our mutual benefit. Now, the youth, the United Nations perspective is youth is described as between the ages of 15 and 24, and giving cognizance to definitions by other member states. The darkest history of African continent is when able-bodied men and women were hunted for slave trade, collaboration between the international community and even the local middlemen, and these were often the youth. That probably informed the definition of African Youth Charter, I don't know, but they said persons between the ages of 15 and 35. Oftentimes in slave raiding, they do not catch people of 50 years, people of my age, or people of 60 years. They need young people from the ages of 15 and 35, probably. That's why it could have informed why African Youth Charter defined the youth within these ages. Now, child has so many definitions, but there's not really a consensus. United Nations says every human being below the age of 18, Africa, no specific age. But for me, my working definition, I mean 14 to 14, 4 to 14, from the age of kindergarten to the age of junior secondary. And then add 4 to 35, that's what gives me an idea of youth, the people I'm addressing or I'm directing this model of sustainability, endurance of systems and processes, ecology, there's economies and policies. Importantly, sustainability and sustainable development has to do with healthy ecosystems, healthy environments, which are necessary for the survival of humans and other organisms. It's a social challenge. There are international laws on urban planning, local and individual lifestyles, even issues about ethical consumerism and importance of reappraising the economic sectors, using other means of agriculture apart from the usual means, the predominant means now. There are what is now looked at as permaculture, permanent methods of agriculture, etc. Challenges, yes, environmental degradation, climate change, overconsumption, and society's pursuit of indefinite economic growth. Where do we stop in this? Now, the Greenback Initiative is an NGO that focuses on building local capacity, self-sufficiency through participatory innovation, accountability, and ownership of human and environmental health. What is this all about? How did it start? How does it work? And what does it hope to achieve? Three central themes are on this. It all started with a book. You rather say an NGO should start before a book. A brief about how this book all started. In year 2000, when I was an assistant lecturer in the university, there was a conference on organized by Faculty of Engineering and Environment, and they wanted papers. And I thought, okay, I'm not in the environment, I'm in Igbo studies, I teach linguistics, semantics in Igbo language in my department, but let me get out something. So I wrote a paper on environmental degradation on women's health towards a public health campaign in indigenous languages. So shortly after, a journal wrote me to say they have accepted the paper, I should prepare it for, fine-tune it for publication. I said, it does not add to my promotion, so why would I write in environmental issues where I'm in languages? So I did not submit the paper for publication. Then in 2001, my husband was diagnosed with cancer, and the first thing was, why would we have cancer here? He never smoked, he never drank, and he hardly finished half a glass of wine, maybe in 3 months' time, and why would we have this? So I wrote to World Bank, United Nations, Red Cross, asking for information. So they started sending me documents and books, sometimes in cartons. And I began to read and found out so many things, including what they call trace elements, about iodine, about iron deficiencies, and then I was doing my PhD there. I had to discontinue it in order to face our health challenges. Then I registered for a second master's in my university. Then I was doing my PhD in another university, which was about 100 kilometers away from my university. So I had to discontinue. I registered for a second master's in my university while also taking care of my family issues. Then we traveled abroad, and he had a most difficult surgery that made him lose his voice. And then he had to come back. He was given an electrolarynx with which he spoke. Then we were advised that he had 6 months to live, and he should come back, make his will, and prepare himself. So I was, then I was 32. Why would I have to lose him at this age? So I kind of became wild in my readings, and started doing so many things. And then there was ASU strike, university strike, and it took 6 months. So it gave us an opportunity to handle the health issues, and then he returned healthy, but using an electrolarynx. And we knew that we were told his time was 6 to 8 months. So, I started doing so many unpractical things. Some worked, some didn't work. But on each occasion we traveled abroad, it was like, what are you? Are you still alive? Well, in fact, the doctor had to ask him. So, I believe that part of those were also destiny. Nothing actually was peculiar to what we were doing. But he now advised me to put some of these jottings down into a book in the 7th year. And why would I? Okay, I started organizing the work. And then on the 8th year, I gave it to him. He read it and said, no, you must insist. You must specify that I asked you to write this book, and I did that. Then he said, you must specify that I have cancer. I said, I just said you are ill. He said, no, you must specify that it's cancer. So, which I did, and then 12 days later, he passed on. So I came back with him from US, and after the burial, I continued. By that time, I had already obtained that, because when he did the first surgery and it was successful, then I finished my master's, then I applied for my PhD. And for those 8 years, he remained healthy. He drove his car, he did everything. Our first child then was in his, he hadn't entered the university yet. By the time he passed on, our first child had already finished his first degree in architecture. And the youngest child, who was still in kindergarten, had already done his junior WAEC, that's what we call it in Nigeria, junior secondary school. And then, so after he passed on, I moved from Nigeria, from Imo State to, leave of absence, moved to Abuja to start to change an environment. I started working with the National Universities Commission. I know it's a bit long, this story, but I hope I'm not boring you. So that was when I finished the work, and I gave it to the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission. I gave it to him in a bound and said, "This, what do you want me to do?" I said, "Could you look at it and maybe put a book forward, write a book forward?" So 2 weeks later, I went back to him. He said he gave it to a professor of medicine to read. I said, "But I didn't write a book on medicine, and why would you give it to a professor?" He said, "Well, that's my choice." So 3 months later, the book was returned to my office with the Executive Secretary's forward. So I felt it was a major break, because the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission is the chief executive of all the Nigerian universities. So I didn't want to bother them again about sponsorship. I wrote to 3 bodies, 3 different individuals and groups, and then one said I should give them one the end of the year. Another one replied to say, "Okay, we can read as collaboration." Then the third one replied to say that the book has been sent outside Nigeria for publication, and it will be back in 2 months' time. And I didn't have to pay anything. So that was how the book, the first 1,000 copies, were published. So as I was waiting for it, a lot of people became interested. Somebody I gave the manuscript to read before wrote me, she's a professor, she wrote me to say that she wanted to comment on the book at the back of the book. So I said, well, it's like I have something here, even though I thought it. So among a few people, we registered an NGO. So by the time the book arrived, the day of the presentation, there were also a large number of people who participated as members of the NGO, and that was how the book came about. So each time I'm talking about this, I usually, this is the first time I'm taking a time to talk about the origin of this book. And I don't want to, I remember that in the critical care unit, it came as a surprise when my late husband asked me, "How is that book?" I was shocked. I said, "What book? If the book is working out, then why are you here?" He said, "No, you must publish it." So I didn't forget that. So I call this our book because he motivated me. Now, that's it. The praxis, what I call praxis, is the process by which a lesson or skill is enacted, embodied, or realized. It's an act of engaging, applying, exercising, realizing, or practicing ideas. So it was like, who would practice this? Well, a few people have taken a view from it. The interesting thing is that it's not a book on science. It's just a work on natural wisdom, indigenous wisdom. It's not even about herbs or anything, just day-to-day practice. It's practice because I adopted this. The number of environmental NGOs has increased. The green movement gaining momentum. Individuals cannot do much in their lives, daily life, because they do not see the personal effects. Yes, it has a number of NGOs, a lot of people are interested in NGOs, there are so many going on. But then, in Africa, a lot of people who are part of this movement feel that they are practicing it, and also is encouraging the development of the improvement of the environment. Is it necessarily vegan? No, because there is one animal protein on this, and then the environment. Yes, the dreaded future is here already in many parts of Africa. This is not a meatloaf, because in this we usually do a lot of pictures, you know. It's not a meatloaf, it belongs to somebody else, and that is an infected liver. Does Africa have enough of these medications to go around in the event of ill health? No, oftentimes wealthy people are usually flown home. If they are ill and you don't even have to be wealthy, you need to sell some of the things you have in order to seek medical treatment in developed countries. And that was part of what we did, much of what we did, because my late husband was a civil engineer on his own, and he didn't get any public sponsorship for those treatments in Nigeria. Now, could we afford to look like this in Africa? Food eaten to provide nutritional support, are this part of it? A lot of these are, the energy drink fat industries are booming in Africa. This is a picture about a choice among many. Which one would you choose among that? One is a diseased pair of lungs that are diseased, the heart is enlarged. And how affordable is this meal in the third world? Interestingly, when it took the medical industry about 65 years to agree that smoking is dangerous to health. And then when they decided to stop, advertisements of cigarette or tobacco in billboards, they didn't warn Africans, they didn't tell them, and there was nothing like that. Billboards on smoking are still there in all parts of Africa. And interestingly, young youths who are unemployed are usually invited, interviewed, and then given packs of boxes of cigarettes, encouraged to smoke, and then get your friends, give them free sticks frequently, get the gathering and share the free sticks of cigarette to them on a daily basis for at least a period of 1 month, and then they'll gradually begin to buy. Because when you catch the younger ones, then you are sure that you're in business in Africa. When you catch them smoking, you are sure you're in business. Interestingly, none of the tobacco companies are owned in Africa. They're usually imported international businesses. Your choice matters here. The first is the green, what we call the green juice that are locally prepared using so many vegetables from Africa. The second is the beer. Abundant oil water scavengers. Yes, this is an oil producing state in a state in Africa. But what is there is oil that has filled the local waters, and the people are scavenging for water. The jerrycan metaphor, most people in Africa will recognize this. Jerrycans are used to store water for drinking, or can also be used to store fuel for mobility, for cars. Without water, life is a battle. Among these, coping in the hands are all kinds of infections that would come as a result of water scarcity. Now, in Greenback, the Green Law, what's our quota for today? In the Green Law, there's what members fill in as service milestones, sometimes on a weekly basis, sometimes on a monthly basis. Survival on radioactive waste. These radioactive wastes are usually brought into Africa, and then scavengers, youth, have to go there, pick things that they have to sell. And this one has finished picking and is heading home with the toxic treasures. Probocol, a lot of people may know about this from Africa. This is a ship that usually transports toxic waste from the west. from Western country to Africa. The last time, was it what country? In Abidjan also, they landed and offloaded. By the time people woke up in the morning, they saw the waste, and the toxic waste, and they had to trace it to Probokola. And then Probokola works for a company in UK that is Trafigura website, Trafigura, and listen to the the ethics or the description of Trafigura. We make things, they help to make trade happen. We move physical commodities from places that are plentiful to where they are most needed, reliably, efficiently, and responsibly. A pact with loyal workers, ability and commitment are well rewarded. Every employee has a part to play in shaping her work ethic and developing a strategy. For the right person, there is a chance to make a real difference as part of a global organization. It's about globalization. Then the Green Pathway Collective, there's what we call the Green Walk, what we call the Green Pathway Roadshow, and what we call the Green Pathway Cultural Training, which we will see at the end of this presentation. Is this the what we seek in Africa? If you look at the background, you see there are no trees there, not even a single tree. Is there a plan B in the event of this? Probably there are. I listened to you talk about possibilities of West getting a home in Mars. Where will Africa go? A legacy of poverty inside climate change. Yes, this is what you usually see in the event of flooding in Africa. Sometimes the fishes are poisoned in the oil-free flow. Acid water spares no one, not even a day-old child, because sometimes the acid rains due to pollution in the environment begins to affect humans and peel off their skins, fishing against the types of pollution. Yes, African, the identity question, we raise it. Who are the Africans? Where is Africa? When and what? It's a question for the next day. Yesterday, an issue was raised. Where does Africa start and where does Africa end? Does it have to do with those that live on the continent, or does it have to do with people in sub-Sahara, sub-Saharan Africa? Does it also include the peninsula and the islands? The Maghreb region, are they Africa? Maghreb are those in the northern region. What is northern or southern Africa? At a point, even South Africa was called a South African subcontinent. So you begin to wonder. The disparity or the disintegration according to segmentation, to whose benefit? It does appear to me that the greatest phobia of countries or outside Africa is the possibility that Africa will come together. E-West, is it an agreement fulfilled? This is some of the waste dumps. And I want to show you this, what I call the ominous goods. In 1987, Nigeria, there was what I call this Cocoa Saga. An ignorant man called Mr. Nana was approached by an Italian company and offered a sum of $100 monthly to keep some goods in his backyard, and he agreed, and then they packed the whole thing there. The man was collecting $100 a month, not knowing he was sitting on e-waste, toxic waste. He now took the intervention of students from Italy, had to inform Nigeria, and then Nigeria was, the military head of state was Ibrahim Babangida, so they seized an Italian ship, loaded the e-waste back, and then asked them to take it back. In 1984, an African country accepted the Soviet Union agreement to dump toxic waste in its place, and they dumped it in 3 villages, digging 3 miles radius of pit, and packed them there. In 1979, Sierra Leone, an American company called Nedlon offered $25 million to pack the e-waste in Sierra Leone, but mounting pressure made the president not accept. Then 1978, the Koba brothers were responsible for most of this. Then an African country also accepted the dumping of 2,000 toxic waste imported from Miramar de Carrara seaport in Italy, and on it goes. You see, these e-waste are not toxic, definitely they will not come to Africa if they are something that the West will need. But then you ask, why do African leaders accept to pack poison, dig well deep and put it inside the soil to pollute the spring waters and the fresh waters? As the delicate Sahel region is destroyed, you see the green is the Sahel region in Africa, covering Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, Lake Chad, Sudan, Nigeria, and Eritrea. Now the place is destroyed because the Lake Chad that links them up is drying up, or has practically dried up. Drought and hunger is hitting harder. People can no more live on land that sustains them. People now live on land that no more sustains them. And I ask, so in the back door, why should this story be a bother to all of us? Because the world has gone global. We're talking about globalization. So what affects me should affect you and should affect you. There is free trade. Everyone is free to trade, invest, buy, sell. And it's supposed to be in the common market. What about supply chain sustainability? That's the ability to integrate environmentally sound choices into supply chain management. What's a company's logistic framework in terms of human health, environmental health, and waste management? The irony of compensation. Oftentimes, with Africans seek compensation for so many things. Damage, like there was a time Pfizer used children in the northern Nigeria to test their drug. And the parents were told that the drug was for polio, and they willingly agreed, and it was found out that the drugs were actually used to test about the efficacy of a particular drug they were producing. And the children's lives, over 3,000 children, 3,500 children's lives were damaged. A lot of them died, others came down with polio, and then compensation. The oil companies pollute the soil and the waters, and then people get compensation, sometimes as bags of rice that they have to go home with and eat. Not thinking about the generational, human, and environmental deterioration. There is often limited information flow. Awareness often comes a bit too late when the whole environment is damaged and human lives are lost. You could win the war, yet you can lose the battle. And what are we being compensated about? If you are seeking compensation for what and with what? Yes, how come? This is a free market. I got this from the Dialectics, the cartoon. I knew there would be a catch in a free trade agreement. Somebody is being cooked in the iron pots. Globalization can be interpreted as destruction of the rainforest, looting of natural resources, and multinational cooperation equals to zero responsibility. You see the issue of Provo who was held, but then Trafigura went free because they employed Provo. They didn't tell Provo to dump the e-waste in a particular place in Africa. And by the time Provo was being traced, they have disintegrated. In fact, the ship, as of now, has been purchased by a Chinese company and scrapped. So you hold no responsibility. More globalization, international arms race. Most of the battles in least developed countries, the guns are being produced in those places. Colonialism and African continued dependency. Interestingly, when we talk about globalization and resources stress, when resources are stressed, then there is serious security risk. This is part of what you see in some parts of Africa where there are local militias, and then migration begins to move. When they arrive at your doorstep, how many will you shoot? When there is resource stress and people have to migrate due to absence of lack of water, lack of resources, and then brain drain, and there is pressure everywhere. Yes, we did this in a class with, remember, just to check about the pension. It takes 4,000 to 8,000 gallons of water to grow a burger, starting from the stage of production of the wheat to the final production of the burger. Now, green versus toxic. Our paper is on the Green Party Initiative. Then the toxic, fashion can be toxic, agriculture can be toxic or green, politics can be green or toxic, depending on the decisions you make. Love and sex can be toxic, and health can be green. Either way, it goes to faith. How green and how toxic? This is part of the conversations we have in as members of the Green Party. The scriptures, how you translate it, how you practice it, and how you interpret it can be green or can be toxic. And then I usually use this quotation, go ye into the world, increase and multiply. And I often say that a lot of people translated it to be, go inside the bedroom, make more children and come out and claim that it is God that asks you to increase and multiply. Good. You cannot multiply on one angle alone. God in the Bible looked at everything and said everything is good. So you have to increase and multiply on everything that God provided. You know? So not just on children. If you have to multiply in children, you also have to multiply on the ability to sustain them and take care of them up till their adulthood age. Now, a commitment to protect God's creation. We use that a lot. You do not have to quote the Quran or the Bible to say you are asked to do this. The ability to translate is what makes you unique and what makes you gifted. You know, the ability to translate or practice your religion in order to protect God's creation is what makes you a special being in the sight of God. Agriculture and self-sufficiency, we always encourage the promotion of homegrown food. Better support from local markets and supermarkets. Foreign goods have their health and quality control challenges, inconsistencies, turbulent prices, and then say no to exotic toxic foods. Foods that may not necessarily be in your environment and does not add value to your health. You have to take them because they're imported. The paradox of sexual liberation beyond morality and ethics. There's a difference between looking over your shoulder and looking over somebody's shoulder. When somebody is presenting something to you, it's possible for you to look over the person's shoulder to know who is standing behind the person. Or when you are following somebody, it's also possible to look over the person's shoulder to know where the person is leading you. Because you could be following him and then he gets to a ditch and jumps and you follow him. Yes, personal choice, liberalization, secularization. Why there are yet no collective policies in Africa on these matters, first world countries are able to adopt these nations because they have come to fair grips with their wealth, with their security, and with their health. Do we have to adopt it unilaterally on Africa? Yes, what I call SLS. We call it sexual liberalization syndrome. In UK, over the last decade, the number of HIV has increased, has steadily grown and not diminished. 2013, for instance, over 81,000 people are accessing HIV treatment and care, and this is double the number it used to be. There's a touching story of a young Nigerian who is gay, and he encouraged a lot of people who they felt were being marginalized and victimized as a result of their sexual orientation, and eventually he joined the All Rights Nigerian movement as a program director, and then in his capacity, he was at the heart of developing Nigerian men sleeping with men HIV prevention framework in 2004. He was trained by the International AIDS Alliance. Then 2004, he came down with HIV. He migrated to Europe and was granted asylum. He has gotten so many awards in some of his organizations. Now we ask, sexual Liberalization. Are we putting the cat before the horse? LGBT rights, crowded sex education the Western way, and rise to commercial sex, abortion, and appeals. Is Africa's health system strong enough to support the spillover effect? When we are still struggling with a number of issues, when we are ill. In developed countries, if you catch syphilis or sexually transmissible disease, you are treated free in the United States. Free. But in Nigeria, if you catch it, if you don't have money, you die. And you transmit it to your wives and others. Or to your wife or to your girlfriend. So, how do we now encourage this amount of liberalization when Africa is still grappling with health issues? Does liberalization favor population decimation in the name of population control? Let's look at health and population discourse. The United Nations estimate says the world population is over 7 billion. Africa is 1.111 billion as of 2011. African continent is the second largest, second most populous, and the world poorest. United Nations quote, the future of humanity is increasingly African. There's a seismic shift in demographic trends, and there is unprecedented demographic shift in the 21st century. Africa and the rest of the world in 35 years' time. Africa's population will double to 2.4 billion. 1.4 billion babies will be born in Africa. Africa's under 18 population will increase by 2/3 to reach about 1 billion. Absolute contributors are Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan, and Mozambique. 2 out of every 5 children in the world will be Africans in the next 35 years. Should we rejoice on this? I remember when I was telling a group of women, you see, it's not good having too many children. And one of them asked me, so what do you want us to do with these ones? I have 7 already. You want me to kill them? So, and her youngest child, as at that time, was 12. She has 7 children. She has 7. The other one has 9. So she asked me, what do you want me to do with them? You want me to strike them dead? That was when I realized I was talking to the wrong people. So there's need to catch in on the younger ones, to talk to them about the importance of containing fertility and productivity. Let's fast forward to 2015, from 2015 to 2050. A 20-year-old inside this room will be 55 years. A 30-year-old will be 65 years. A 40-year-old will be 75. And a 50-year-old will be 85. I'll be 85 in 2050. Where will most of the present world leaders be? Leaders be in 2050. So it's a question you have to ask yourself, and ask yourself whether they are actually leading you properly. Whether you need to generate a grassroots movement that doesn't have to do with toppling the African leaders. Nigeria has an agreement with the Chad, with Guinea, with Mali on how to make the Lake Chad, because Lake Chad is almost dried up. So there are plans to channel water from Congo into Lake Chad. I don't know how far that has gone. Libya alone had to get into the aquifer that should take care of the whole countries in that zone, including Egypt. They got into it using the water for all kinds of things, including agriculture. And that's what I usually call the tragedy of the commons, because a short while from now, when the waters are dried up, what will they do? The countries that have been using the aquifer for irrigation and for others, for instance, in the United States, Houston will soon be short of water everywhere because they broke it through the aquifer and are using it for industrial purposes. Aquifer water is supposed to be water for drinking and for using personal things, not for industrial purposes. Okay. Then there will be pressure on land and scarce resources. There will be huge unemployment, lawlessness, political instability, poverty, and Africa's population will be 2.4 billion. That is why we need this dialectic on education and environment. education, the way it's being understood, has to be changed. From kindergarten up till the rest of the life, there has to be a discourse on environment in Africa. International responses to Africa have been objective or punitive. United Nations and donor agencies. Liberalization and secularization must be undergirded by one, sustainability, two, human and environmental health and safety, and then three, affordability. Sometimes affordability does not mean cheap, because sometimes cheap is not often cheap. You get things cheap and you think they are cheap, but over time they are not. We need to explore the African dialectic. Imperative 1, African Leaders Summit on Health and Environment. There has never been anything like that. Imperative 2, engage children and youth in health and sustainability program all over Africa. From, what's the first discipline? Let's say architecture, archaeology, down to zoology. Even mathematics, there has to be a discourse on environment and health. Yes, I always like this. What I call toxic dependence. How sustainable is it for us as we seek? This is called the African pride. It has a package, and it's supposed to be used to stretch our hair to look more like the European hair. And we ended up this way. Look at before, look at after. How fair enough on skin can we be? How sustainable? Is this the color we seek? Okay, let's go to some. Interfaith Coalition on Health and Environment is a subgroup of the Green Pathway Initiative. This is a group that I involved in. I told you the Green Faith and the Toxic Faith. They are always involved in issues about faith and the environment, and they have a lot of occasions. They have called me to participate in some of the occasions. Enthusiastic members, they look forward to practicing and participating as proactive human beings and human instruments for networking exploration of indigenous options for a more sustainable African region. They come from all walks of life, students and workers, literates, non-literates, all eager to be part of this emerging trade. It's not under any grant or regular sponsorship or initiative. A group may decide to adopt one GP Green Pathway collective. Let's say you want to adopt the Green Pathway group on Refresh, you develop it. Anybody can develop any part. I mean, do something, but the important thing is let there be something being done. Now, this is one of our retreat sessions. Guests at one of the Green Pathway presentations. On one occasion, the professors in the Women in Sciences invited me for a presentation, and I was like, why would Women in Sciences invite me for a presentation and not in Sciences? But it turned out a good, because people are looking forward to other ways of discussing this environment that doesn't have to be with plotting the graphs and giving us figures that we cannot interpret. So this is part of the occasion I attended with them. I participated and they gave me a report. This is what the group I call the biggies. I usually, you won't believe that all this, none is above 26 years. And I call them the biggies because they grew up, they were born when the first fast food came into Nigeria, and it's called Mr. Biggs. Yeah. The biggies. No, this is the smallest among them. So they eventually live in the fast food joints. Sometimes they go with their laptop and they eat because, and
So interestingly, the biggies are always going for regular exercises now on Saturdays, and two of them are my personal assistants. Then this is a workshop we attended. I attended in Chicago with Al Gore. I didn't know how they got me, but they invited me for a conference on climate reality in Chicago. Then the Green Media is part of the Green Pathway Collective. We have not really used this. It's anybody who wants to adopt it can adopt it. That's using an interactive forum in the news media on the Green Pathway or on environment. What we call the Green Pathway Refresh is about building local, what do you call it in German? But we call it restrooms. You know, toilets in public places, you know, toilets that could be accessed by people instead of people doing it anywhere. Provide a toilet, keep somebody to take care of it, and people can come and pay if they have the money, just a little token to keep the place clean. And there's also what we call the operation Clear the Pathway. Like I told you at the beginning, there's a book we call the Green Law, and members keep the Green Law, on which they usually jot down things they have been able to do on the Green Pathway. The Green Pathway Collective, there's what we call the Green Pathway Kiosk. Often on occasions, maybe big occasions in the stadium, people usually mount ice cream workshops, ice cream kiosks, and then you see the Green Pathway Kiosk where somebody will be preparing homegrown foods, local foods, at very affordable prices for people to take. What you call the Operation COP, Control and Treat HIV/AIDS, is the week we usually devote to spreading the AIDS awareness. It's an AIDS awareness campaign. And then OSOMAL is Operation Stamp Out Malaria, ways to clear the places in order to prevent the breeding of vectors like malaria. This is part of the presentation we did, because there is no presentation I refuse, even if it is three people in a room. So a secondary school invited me to do a presentation on the Green Pathway Initiative. And by the time we finished, all of them became members, registered members. Then what we call the Green Hand, extra hand, is once in a while a member of the Green Pathway may decide to elect and do a kind of, it doesn't mean much, but stay on the road and be a road crosser for children going to school, take them across the road, or decide to work in a hospital for that day and be the receptionist or assistant to the receptionist, or decide to fetch water for a disabled. Anything within the period, we call it the Green Hand, and it's very popular in the Green Pathway among them. Then there's what we call the internal group, the study group, in which people come together to do a lot of, dialogue, discussions about the Green Pathway. Then the Green Picnic, a lot of people look forward to it. Unfortunately, I wasn't there this last time because I came over here, but they did it. Then the Green Mentor is a member of the Green Pathway, adopting somebody and then leading the person along the Green Pathway, the path of the Green Pathway. We always like this, the membership training in community caretaking. Because before people begin to use this as an avenue to seek more compensations for pollution, we also do this in order to make members know where to stop. Before you begin to police people and begin to become another local militia. So there's always membership training on how to actually claim ownership of the community by protecting it. Usually on March we have what we call UV Smart Week, Ultraviolet Smart Week, in which it's been done once. You encourage people to dress with a sense of taking note of the fact that ultraviolet rays are very, very real and they cause skin cancer in Africa, especially sub-Saharan, many parts of Africa, because of the depletion of the ozone layer, and discourage the wearing of skimpy dresses in many parts, which is regarded as fashionable, because the more you expose your skin to to the ultra-violet rays, especially before the age of 27, the more likely one will get skin cancer in later years. Then the GB refresh, I mentioned that about building a toilet. Then the crew confab, crew networking, this is more of internal issues. The biggest of them is the Green Pathway Summit. Is this a cake? No, this is a cross-section of a lung that is being attacked by emphysema due to long-standing cigarette smoking. So that's what it usually. So you see the black spots are the blood vessels that are ruptured, you know. Usually, I always use this and this in my book. As mortals, we shall die someday. But may our death not be the result of circumstances within our capacity to control. And may we leave this earth not more polluted, but cleaner and better than we had met it. Then the second one is your health is your wealth, your environment is your legacy. Youth engagement can help to slow down the tempo of climate change, poor health, lawlessness, and violence in many regions.